Firstly, Nam gave us Claude Max.
Yes.
But are we Claude? That was the wrong time for that. But are we Claude Maxing?
Yeah.
Are we making the most out of our Claude Code account?
No.
Are we all extending our token limits?
No.
We're not. That means we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
That means we're doing something wrong.
Oh my.
So Claude is like Steve, right? And this is how I like to think about our AI agents in the modern day. So our AI agents in the modern day, they need tools, right? They need different things that make them better. So just like Steve, like a video game character, like my friend Steve over here, you can improve them by dressing them up, by giving them diamond armor. Now, what are these different tools that can actually improve these agents? So things like this, first skills, MCPs, context, and other verification tools would actually help them perform to the best of their ability and really get the most out of them. So Steve on its own, he's capable, right? Like he can punch down wood, he can do basic tasks. But then with diamond armor, you never know, right? Now, first of these things, we'll go through skills because I'm going to be mentioning this quite a bit. Now, skills are just prompts, right? They're just prompt templates. So we actually just wrap a prompt in a skill. It's a / command and it'll load it on demand. Now there's two big skills that have, one big skill that's actually been blowing up recently, and that's a remotion skill. This is like an example of how we can really push Claude Code to the max and get the most out of it. Now you think Claude Code, right? Oh, it codes. But I want everyone to really expand beyond that and understand that Claude Code does everything. It can literally do everything. Now remotion is the first example of that. What it actually does is it just in React, it renders videos, right? And this actually makes everyone make really sick animations. So if you've actually checked Anthony's LinkedIn, his recent posts have actually been using remotion, and that's been allowing him to create little animations to demo and show off his projects. Now I don't have that for you today, but that's just an example of what it can do. So the remotion skill is just a prompt template. It's a very detailed template that tells Claude exactly what and how to execute upon a certain thing. So in this case, it'll show it with the certain React components that would actually help it produce video. Now, how skills load? So if we're giving all these huge prompts into Claude, well, doesn't that fill up the context window? Wouldn't that ruin the context? Well, not exactly, because Claude actually implemented this in a pretty smart way. They have just the metadata loaded in. So then in our skills.md file, which is where all our skills are, we only have the name and the description. So this actually tells Claude when we can actually utilize this skill and how it will load it into context completely. And then once it's loaded into context completely, we have our full prompt dragged into it. That's how skills work, and that's how they load into context. So that's just some background information for some of the other things that we're going to be covering today. Now, as my good friend Abe said, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. Let's take a modern twist on that. Give me 6 hours to implement a feature, and I'll spend the first 4 writing the prompt, right? The prompt is so important. It's one of the biggest things that allow Claude to perform to its maximum capability. Now, skills are the first way to actually load in preload prompts into it and really get the most out of it. But there's also some other things that I want to go through. So first, context is actually everything. I actually believe in the current state, Claude is actually it's smarter than me, right? It can do everything, given that it knows exactly what needs to be done. So in that sense, I currently think humans are the bottleneck. Now, in a deeper sense, not in a way that AI is going to take over the world, they're going to ruin us, but just to efficiency max, humans are actually the bottleneck. You could have 3 instances of Claude open and tell them all to do things, and the only drag behind there would be how fast you can understand the output and reprompt it, right? So that's exactly why context is everything. You need to make sure it understands exactly what it's doing so it can keep on going. So first model of prompting that I want to introduce to everyone, actually the only one I'm going to introduce today, but the code model. So this is the chain of verification. Claude will test its own code. This is super, super important. Now, what is this 28% figure? Well, meta research engineers actually figured out that using this model always generated 28% better results. It was more correct. Now, what is this model actually doing? So it's creating its initial response from the prompt. So you tell it to do something, it goes and does it. It outlines what assumptions about what it's created and about what the correct behavior should be, and then it also verifies. So it'll then spawn sub-agents to check each of these outlined claims and then make sure that those assertions are actually correct in the code base. And then finally, it emits the correct and most accurate response. So this is the code model, right? Let's break down a code prompt. So for example, if we have implement a Stripe checkout flow for our Next.js app with price ID lookup, that's our base prompt. Now what the outline step would do is generate these sort of assumptions. So does this exist here? Is the redirect URL using the correct pattern, etc., right? These are things that if you just gave the first prompt, it might make a mistake on. So then if the outline step actually makes sure that it can go ahead and verify that these things all exist in the actual output code base. Now, it'll then go ahead and fix these and then produce the final code with these 4 corrections applied. Now, introducing the first thing that I'm going to give you guys today, it's the R&B skill. So we can implement Stripe checkout. So basically, what this skill will do, it'll turn your prompt into a code prompt. So we can lazy prompt. We're all lazy, right? That's why we use Claude Code, because we don't want to write the code. We don't want to type things out. So this skill is something you guys can all add, and then it'll basically convert a lazy prompt like this into a code prompt and get better output for you guys. And this is something I've been using for a while.
Did you make it yourself?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That's why it's called R&B, yeah. Now, we said verification, right? Like, how is it supposed to verify that something's in the UI, right? Now, of course, you can make assumptions about the code base and check whether these things actually exist, but let's take that a step further. And I know a lot of you guys would already know this because I've seen on dev discussion a lot. Shout out Dylan and Anthony. But let's give Claude eyes, right? Let's let it actually focus on what it's outputting. So in a user perspective completely. Now this means that it should be able to build UI, screenshot it, test it, go ahead and click it, and then test if it's actually doing the correct thing. Now the first thing that I want to highlight here is Playwright MCP. Now you guys must have seen a bunch of tools recently like Dev Browser, actually that's the main one, but Dev Browser. Now Dev Browser is actually just a skill that wraps around Playwright and gets better output out of the Playwright MCP itself. Playwright MCP will let Claude use your browser. So it just makes tool calls that will go to your browser and basically run it for you, click on everything for you. This is actually the main thing that I've been working on with my client, is working on tests to make sure that all the functionality of a site is existing. So that's one thing that I recommend that everyone actually adds as well. Now, with Claude, there's actually one big enemy that we're fighting, and I'm sure a bunch of you guys would have noticed this. So let's say you're prompting, right? You run into a bug, and then you keep on prompting in the same session. You keep on going, but it's not able to fix it. Suddenly, you start a new session, you ask it one thing, and done, boom, it's able to fix it. Why is that? It's because of context rot. Now, this is actually just how the amount of tokens deep you're already into the context window, the quality of the output will actually lower significantly. So this means that, like what I said, earlier instructions would get buried and output would get worse and worse over time. So we need systems that manage context automatically. And one of these systems I've been using is called Get Shit Done. It is a Claude Code repository that someone's made, and it basically allows you to re-engineer and reset your context window very easily. It'll use the GSD new project. Now what's this gonna do? It's gonna completely explore your code base. It's gonna launch parallel agents and understand exactly what's in it right now, or alternatively, if you're starting a new project, it'll understand what you want it to. And then it'll discuss phases. It'll plan out phases and make sure that in each phase, you can accomplish one certain task. And then it'll execute them in a fresh context window. So this means that there's no context rot. And that's exactly what this will be able to defeat. And then of course it's going to verify them just like we talked about before. So that's one of the first repositories I want to share with everyone, and I'll post a link to all this after this. But yeah, that's pretty important. Now under the hood, this is exactly what it's doing. So it has a project MD file, and this is what it's going to create when you initialize the project. It'll have a high level vision that's always loaded into the context. It'll have a roadmap of all the phases and the end goal and where you want to get to by the end of it. It'll have a state, so what it's up to, what it's done so far, and it'll have a plan MD. So it'll have an executable XML task that actually tell it for each fresh context window exactly what needs to get done. So this means that the orchestrator would only say at 30 to 40% context utilization. This is actually similar to something that Open Code uses, which is basically it creates a fresh agent every single time to go ahead and complete one task. Now, of course, I have to talk about the Ralph loop. I know some of you guys love the Ralph loop. Now, this is autonomous iteration via step hooks. It's named after Ralph Wiggin, and I actually have created my own version of the Ralph loop called Spidey. Now, it's a Ralph loop that will keep iterating until the UI matches your intent. Right, and this is exactly how it works. So you give it the prompt, it'll go ahead and make a PRD. So it's a very detailed design document consisting of test cases and user roadmaps. So make sure that it has a complete understanding of what exactly the end goal is here. And then it goes ahead and executes in fresh context windows, checks if it actually works, and then if it doesn't, it goes back and executes again. So it's a hook, right? Now this stop hook is actually something that's very important. I don't want to go too deep into this because it's actually its whole new thing, but it's something important that I want everyone to basically be using. Make sure that code is just always generating by itself. We don't need to be there every single time to make sure it's going. So currently, if you ask a few people what they'd say, like Theo, he says he feels like every moment is wasted if a Ralph loop isn't going on in the background. Because right now, while we're all sitting here, imagine if we all had a route loop going on in our computers, right? We could all be building like what, 50, 40 projects or something at the same time. So that's just making you guys think, right? So we have these tools, why not utilize them to the max? This one, be careful though, it might ruin your context. Might ruin the tokens that Lyra's given you. But I've actually been using them 2 days, nothing's happened, so it's okay, it's okay. Yeah. So what are stop hooks? This is actually something that's pretty interesting. This is exactly how the route loop is able to work. So a stop hook is a command that intercepts Claude's exit. So when Claude thinks it's time to end this one, it'll stop it. But before it stops it, it'll use the stop hook. Now, you guys might have seen that one Instagram reel where it was like, Claude, you prompt Claude, and then it'll automatically switch to like Instagram reels. You can watch the reel, and then as soon as Claude is done, it'll switch back to Claude, right? Now, how is it doing this? It's actually using a stop hook, okay? So this is actually how notifications work as well. If you guys have used Claude Desktop, it uses stop hooks, so it'll make sure that as soon as something's done, it tells you, and you can go back to it. And this is actually very important when we're doing a lot of context switching amongst very many Claude sessions. So I want to highlight this, and I want everyone to actually try and experiment with this, because I think there's some really cool things that could be done here. We could have a full Slack integration. You could get it completely going to your phone, like just a huge variety of things, right? And I think creativity is something that we actually need to explore more with things like Claude Code. So route loop in the wild, I just want to again emphasize how crazy something like this is. So in 3 months, the creator of the route loop actually made a full new programming language called Cursed. Now, it's a Gen Z themed programming language, and it actually compiles to a bunch of different OSs. And another engineer seems to have set up a full route loop to clone Fruit Ninja. Like, it's a pretty cool app, right? But then it would take quite a bit of time if I was to try and prompt it myself. But then with a route loop, leave it on the background, it'll get it done. Yeah, so there's some crazy examples of what can be achieved if you correctly utilize these tools. So now let's get Steve's portal. So we have all these, we have our diamond armor now, right? We've equipped ourselves with all these different things. But how can we actually go ahead and conquer the world? How can we slay the Ender Dragon? MCPs. Now, MCPs let Claude interact with external services. So it's like a portal to another world. And there's a few MCPs that I want to actually highlight here. One of them is NAN. Since I know that Lyra basically runs on NAN, right? We all know that all our Slack automations are pretty much based in NAN. So why don't we just use Claude to create NAN instances a lot faster? Let's actually go through an example of this. So I actually made a prompt like this to create an NAN workflow that triggers on Slack webhooks that watches for the word Lyra and takes a task description, sends it to a ChatGPT AI agent, breaks it down into subtasks, and pastes the result into Slack. This will actually configure all the nodes for you and leave basically the main things, like only selecting which exact Slack channel and the specifics back. And that's only because I'm giving such a vague prompt. If we were to give a better prompt, obviously we'd get better results. That's how this works. I ran this before, but we'll see. As you can see, it uses the MCP. Now this is actually set up with NAN MCP with NAN skills. So it's some guy actually made a repository with these things. And this allows it to, let me actually clear it. Okay, something like this should be able to get the job done. It'll go ahead and research everything that's available. So there's a few different things available, and then it goes ahead and loads them in, research it more specifically, checks if these things actually exist. It'll build a workflow for you right in NAN. Okay, while that's running, let's go on a little bit more. Now, MCPs plus skills. So this is actually how we can get the most out of both things. Now, previously I mentioned the dev browser skill and how that was using Playwright. So skills are like training, right? They're like templates on how to get the most out of different things, how to make Claude follow instructions a lot better. And MCPs are external tools, right? So these skills will actually allow us to use these external tools a lot better and understand exactly how to use them. Now, with skills, for example, the NAN workflow, it'll know the patterns, the syntax, and validation, which otherwise it wouldn't know if you just use it with plain MCP. And then it will create node-specific config and auto-validate before deploying. And this is actually the repository that had all these skills available. My personal recommendations in general with Claude is actually to use Git worktree and Conductor. This is actually just how you can work on one project at the same time. Yeah, and I know a lot of you guys already do this, so I won't spend too much time on it. Dangerously skip permissions. Now, it sounds scary, right? Oh, dangerously skip permissions, but I've never ran into an issue with it, right? I don't know if any of you have. If you have written it, has it deleted a prod database? No, it doesn't have access to it for me. So it's pretty safe to use in my opinion. And the main holdup is actually clicking enter for everything that you wanted to approve, and it's fairly rarely a case where you're actually Claude, I don't want you to do this. So I actually recommend using this a lot more, especially with things like route loops. It will use them by itself, so might as well just use this. Controversial take, sort of, yeah. And then another thing is like let it use CLI tools. So let Claude use G-Cloud CLI, AWS CLI, Supabase CLI. This actually removes that step that the human has to do, where you have to log into Supabase and then paste the tokens in or whatever like that, right? It can just set it up for you all by itself. Like let's give it all the tools it needs to complete a project for you without you having to do anything really, right? You just want to watch, you just want to monitor, you just want to make sure that everything is fine. You want to check the output. Okay, and these are my skills that I want everyone to start using. I'll send them all through. The first of them is R&B, we already went through that. That is the code prompting. We have Spidey, which is actually going to set up the entire route loop for you. I know with the route loops initially for me, there was an issue where it was like, oh, this is kind of scary. Like, oh, I have so much setup to do. I have to set up the route, like the bash files, all of that, right? The project files. Spidey will do that for you. Okay, so that's done. And then we have Wavy Baby. This is a meta orchestrator. It'll analyze your tasks and auto selects optimal skills, MCPs, and apply code to your prompts. So this is lazy prompting and rigorous output out. It auto equips all these things, loads it into the skills MD files. And then finally, we have our hero of today's presentation. We have Steve. Shout out, Steve. It's the full stack. It'll combine GSD, what we went through before that, get shit done repository, the structured project management, where it was like in phases. And it combines that with Ralph's autonomous execution loop. Because Ralph by itself, it doesn't actually have too much structure. It'll just keep on going. It'll be like, okay, fresh context window, let me try again. GSD, apply that, combine those two things, and you actually get something pretty special. Add Wavy Baby on top of that, and then suddenly, you actually have everything you need to really build something pretty crazy, all with like a few prompts. Let's actually check up on this. Okay.
Oh,
Well, look at that. Now this was a pretty basic thing, and you guys saw my prompt, right? I literally it was like 1 line, 1.5 lines. And this is what it was able to produce. And it has pretty much the main things that you need connected to Haranish Slack already. Contains Lyra, like pretty simple if statement. Task breakdown, has the setup. So it's very basic and like out of something quick. I know this might be useful for ops and for growth as well. So we can actually use these tools to our disposal to try and create something crazy. Another thing on MCPs that I just wanted to go back and mention is that I actually use MCPs a lot in my daily life. Like what do I use them for? I actually use the Notion MCP a lot. Like, I know Chakra has actually been working on full Notion MCP integration. And you guys have probably seen all the different things that it can be used for. Like what do I use it for? I give Claude a screenshot of an item that I want to buy or that I have bought. It'll take the price and enter it into my financial tracker. All by itself, right? I don't need to do anything.
Can we see your financial tracker?
You cannot.
6 Spider-Man questions.
Figma, that is something that might be good for designers. So we can actually read Figma files and generate matching components using the Figma MCP. And then Playwright is something I've gone through already. Okay, so that's been the basics of everything. Now, I have one more thing for everyone, right? One more thing, one more special thing that I've been gatekeeping for a while now because I wanted to say for this presentation. Now, what is this? What is this, guys? It's a phone, right? It's a phone. Who codes on their phone? No one, right? Because who wants to look at code on their phone? Before that wasn't possible. It's not possible. But now with Claude Code, you can, right? You just need to type prompts. You're just texting someone. It's as easy as that. Introducing this app, right? It's called Happy Coder. I didn't make it. But it's how I've actually been coding while I was at the gym. I left my laptop on, connected Happy Coder, and it'll just go ahead and code for you. Just use the Claude Code. Now, I'll actually set this up for everyone really quickly. Oh yeah, this is how we can actually set up my skills. All you do is type Happy, and then it has Claude Code here, right? And then on the app on my phone, open it up, and then we see the terminal is online. Like it's very, very small, but we can see the terminal is online. Type hi. I'm crazy. Sorry, I'm not paying attention anymore. Yeah, it's open. Before I was like, yeah, I'm not using this, but ever since Lyra gave it to me, I was like, sorry Claude 8 users. Yeah, it's going. It's just basically Claude coding on my phone, right? We can code on the go.
Bro, I think I want it, bro. I think I want it.
Yeah, sorry. And also actually, just in case people don't know, like how I've been able to code on my phone is like, I just set up an ngrok HTTP pointing to the server that I'm using. I think everyone should know that, but yeah, that's just like how I check out what my phone is on.
How do you verify the output?
Like, it's a live browser, right?
Oh,
so just code, yeah. So it's like coding on your phone. Yeah, so I just wanted to highlight the tweet. I hate what I've become, right? This is how I feel in this day and age. Like, we have all these powerful tools, and every second I'm not using it feels like a waste. It honestly feels like a waste, because we can just constantly keep these things running in the background So why not just keep building? And there's one more thing that I want to highlight, and that's an open question, right? What's better than one vibe coder? A room full of vibe coders. And look at what we have with us today, right? We have a room full of vibe coders. Let's make the most of that. We can all work together and sort of build something crazy. Yeah, that's it. Thanks very much.